Epis.
On this episode, we discuss the amazing career and tragic death of Mitr Chaibancha, one of Thailand's most legendary actors.
So if you're interested in Thai film or even just important events in Thai history, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who followed a friend to Thailand in 2001 and has come to love air conditioning more than I love pizza.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 17 years ago, fell in love with being able to swim better than almost every Thai person, and I never left.
You set your bar pretty low, I guess, then.
Hey, well, it is a big country.
All right, well, we want to say a quick thank you to one of our patrons, our friend Devin Knowles, who supports us at the show shout-out level. Now stick around after we're done talking about the incredible story of one of Thailand's most famous actors to hear why Devin had the nickname White Elephant. And now next time he comes to Thailand, he should join us for a bike ride lest he injure himself again.
Interesting. Looking forward to that. You can learn more about becoming a patron on our website, and of course, one of the cool things our patrons get is an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we talk about current events in Thailand and basically whatever else comes into our minds. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about the great news that drowning deaths among children in Thailand have fallen, as well as an update on Saudi refugee Rahaf Mohammed. So check it out. Before we jump into our main topic, we have to mention that after many requests over the years, you can finally listen to the Bangkok Podcast on YouTube.
Yay!
Yeah. Now we have only 2 videos up there, like news shows, and you need at least 3 to even show up in search results. So you won't be able to find us yet unless you click on the link in the show notes. So please check those out and subscribe, because you also need 100 subscribers to get a unique URL, which is our next goal. And eventually, we will start putting up the back catalog of shows, so you'll have another place to listen to any show you want.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It can't hurt. So if I know something, sometimes I do that. Sometimes I pull up old comedians and something at work on YouTube and just listen to the audio. So if that's your bag, then you can do that with our show as well. So yeah, just double check the show notes there and we'll link right to our channel. All right, well, continuing with our look into some of Bangkok's most interesting history, we want to talk about the amazing career and tragic death of Mitr Chaibancha. Now, certainly not a lot of foreigners know about Khun Mitr, and probably not a lot of younger Thais either, as he was most active during the golden age of Thai cinema, which was from about 1955 to 1970. Now, it's hard to find a parallel that foreigners would be familiar with, but from a Hollywood perspective, we can think of Khun Mitr as a cross between Burt Reynolds, Clint Eastwood, Sean Connery, and with a dash of Bruce Lee and maybe even some of the swag of Humphrey Bogart thrown in there. So he was a pretty big deal.
Wow. I mean, okay, now that's a hell of a combination.
Yeah, he was absolutely the biggest star for more than a decade in Thailand. Like I said, he was one of the absolute biggest stars that Thai cinema had ever seen, and his story is both inspiring and sad. So without further ado, let's get into the life and death of Khun Mitr Chaibancha. Now, Ed, you're not really familiar with his story, are you?
Yeah, I was going to say I don't really know that much about him. The name was vaguely familiar, and looking at some of your notes on the show, I was vaguely familiar with some facts of his life, but I really had no idea how big of a star he was. He was huge.
Yeah, massive. So let's get into it. Khun Mitr was born into poverty in Phetchaburi province, which is the one sort of sandwiched between Hua Hin and Bangkok. He was born in 1934, and his name at birth was Pichet Pumhem. His parents divorced when he was still a baby, and his mother, being the sole breadwinner, she moved to Bangkok, where she enrolled Mitr in school and led a very average life. And while he was in school, he enrolled in Muay Thai, which is when he really started to make a name for himself.
Okay.
In 1952, at age 18, he became the lightweight boxing champion for his school, and went on to win 3 lightweight division titles. He made a name for himself as a champion fighter, which ain't easy, as we've all seen little clips of Muay Thai fighters getting the crap kicked out of them in the ring.
Definitely not. In Thailand, it's extremely competitive.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like we talked with our guest a few weeks ago, Matt Lucas, we were talking about how a lot of people in poverty see Muay Thai as maybe a ticket out of poverty. So this fits that paradigm where Khun Mit was very poor growing up, so he became a very talented fighter. So he went to college at Pranakhon Ratchabat University in northern Bangkok, which is up near Don Mueang. And when he graduated, he was accepted into the Royal Thai Air Force Aviation School, where he was trained as a pilot. And when he graduated, he worked as a flight instructor at Don Mueang Royal Thai Air Force Base as a flight sergeant second class.
Okay, so basically seems to be a successful young guy, but not any kind of star or anything like that.
No, he's making a name for himself, and he's got a pretty cool job. I mean, being an Air Force pilot is pretty neat, I guess.
Right.
But this is where it all changed, because in 1956, he was introduced to the publisher of a movie magazine, who put him in a couple of layouts, and soon enough, he was cast in his first movie called Cha Tsua, which means Tiger Instinct, which came out in 1957. And that met with a modicum of success, and after that's when he changed his name to Mitr Chaibancha. And his next film, called Chow Nak Lang, which means Gangster Lord. Man, I love the titles of these old movies. Well, Gangster Lord blew up, and that's when he became a bona fide movie star.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Quick question. So, obviously, screen names are supposed to sound cool.
Right.
What I think is fascinating is Mitr Chaibancha. It sounds cool, even though I don't speak Thai well, and it's a Thai name. So it's kind of fascinating that Thai people think of that as a cool name, and then even in English, it sounds cool.
Yeah, and it's even spelled cool. I love names that are spelled like this because it's actually spelled M-I-T-R. Because in Thai, it's spelled Moma Salai Dot Dao Ra Rua, but you don't pronounce the final Ra Rua, so it's just Mit with like the last letter being silent completely.
I wonder if there's ever been a study. Maybe we need a linguist. If there are any PhDs in linguistics out there, I wonder if there's ever been a study done on testing how cool names sound and whether like a name that a German person thinks is cool, if like a Chinese person heard the name, if they would also think it was cool.
That's interesting.
Is coolness, I guess the question is coolness universal?
That's a thesis topic right there.
There you go.
Well, for the longest time, I wanted to put a silent P in front of my name, so my name would actually be spelled P-G-R-E-G, but it would just be pronounced Greg. So I don't think it would work out the same for me as it did for Khun Mit.
I see.
So check this out. Full information about Khun Mit is hard to find online in English. I did a ton of Googling about him to get the notes for the show done. IMDb only has 5 credits for him as an actor, which is insane. It's actually a crock, because Khun Mit went on to make, check this out, he made over 266 films in his 14-year career, which means averages one film every 3 weeks.
Okay, that's crazy.
It's insane.
I mean, I'm sure there's some people who've made more movies than that, but that's just got to be up there, and among actors who've been in the most movies ever in any country. That's got to be up there.
Yeah. Now, granted, a lot of the movies that were made in Thailand back then, actually a lot of the movies total, I mean, we've all seen movies made in America in the 70s, and they weren't known for their superb production design or, groundbreaking scripts or anything like that. I think a lot of these were sort of like down and dirty, in and out, film it in a couple of days, and out we go. But
they're just cranking them out. They're just cranking them out, yeah.
Yeah, but still, even making a cheap movie is really difficult. And,
yes,
props to everyone involved in that. And this is interesting because most of Khun Mit's films were in 16mm format, because back then most films in Thailand and Asia were filmed on 16mm. 35mm didn't come around until sort of the early 70s. And there were no negatives done, as back then there was usually only one copy made for each of the 4 regions of Thailand: North, South, Northeast, and Central. So copies were used until the quality got too bad to be used. As every time it runs through the projector, it gets scratched a little bit and stuff like that.
Right.
So when they became too bad to be used through a projector, they were just thrown in the garbage. So as a result, many movies with Khun Mit have simply disappeared. And out of the 266 that he made, only 94 are left, with bits and pieces of others in the hands of collectors throughout Thailand.
You know what that reminds me of? And I wonder if the weather here has something to do with it. I can't remember the name of the movie. Maybe if Greg and I can find it, maybe we'll post a link to it. But I saw a movie once about film preservation in the States and also in Canada. And it was a similar situation where movies were passed around to theaters, like in a tour. And then at the end of the tour were these movie houses in Alaska. That was like the last stop. And and at the end of the run, they threw the films in like a pit or something, like it, because they were like garbage. And it's like so cold there that it ended up preserving a lot of the film, and they ended up digging up like the garbage pit and found copies of a whole bunch of old films that were lost.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
So I wonder if the heat here is part of the reason why so few films survived.
Maybe, yeah. But think about that. Like, probably one of the most famous movie stars in Thai history, with an incredibly diverse catalog, and like only a third of his movies even exist anymore.
And it also wasn't that long ago. It wasn't like the 1930s.
Yeah, like we were. I mean, I was not born yet, but you were around.
Yeah, it was like
I was about to be born.
It was like the 70s, or the 60s, the 70s, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. So Khun Mit was so popular that a bank would finance a movie without question if a studio asked for a loan and said that Khun Mit was going to appear in the movie. They'd be like, "Take my money." And he's most famous for being in movies with a girl named Petchara Chawarat, who was his co-star in 165 films. Whoa. The most famous being Monrak Luktung, which means magic love of the countryside. And I've never seen this movie, but I think I'm going to check it out, because I like movies like this in Thailand, where it's sort of like they take place up country in the rice fields, and they're sort of a simple love story.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and they're so charming, and I really like to see this one. But Monrak Luktung was one of Mit and Petchara's biggest hits, and it played in cinemas for 6 months and made 6 million baht. And I did a bit of digging around, and the average ticket price at that time was around 10 to 12 baht. So that's a lot of tickets that it sold.
Oh, that's crazy. So what is that? So Monrak Luktung. Okay, I got to remember that. I'd like to check that out. There's so many. I think the history of Thai film is understudied and underappreciated. I'm sure there's some experts out there. I'm sure there's some aficionados, but I think people don't realize how many movies used to be made in Thailand.
Yeah, and how early they were made too. I mean, the first movie in Thailand was made in like 1897 or something like that.
Yes,
like
I believe
the Lumiere brothers, the people who invented film technology, came to Bangkok to make a movie.
That's right, and I believe it might have been King Rama VI, but there was a Thai king or a Thai royal who was one of the early filmmakers. I think it was actually the brother of King Rama V. He's considered like the father of modern Thai cinema. Yeah, right. Okay, I knew it was a royal.
Yeah. We can do a whole different show on that, because that's a really interesting topic as well. And so what I found out also was that at his peak, his salary was about 150,000 baht per film in 1960 money, which today would be nearly 1 million baht in today's money. So he's making like 1 million baht every 3 weeks, basically, for these movies he's doing.
So he was a true star. He was a player.
Yeah. Totally, yeah. I mean, most of his movies were like, they were either sweet romances or like hard-boiled action, like The Old Detective or something like that. And his most famous character was In Si Dang, which means Red Eagle, a private detective who put on a red mask and became a superhero, beating up bad guys and taking down criminals. So he made a couple of movies. I couldn't find out how many movies he made as the Red Eagle. Like I said, information in English is kind of hard to find about him. But he was going to make sort of a big comeback with this character for his last film, and it was called In Si Tong, which means Golden Eagle. And this is a little bit long, but I want to read the plot of this movie because it is absolutely insane, and I totally need to see this movie.
Well, let me ask you a quick question. Was the Red Eagle resuscitated as a Thai superhero?
There was a remake made in 2010 with Ananda Everingham.
Right, that's what I thought, because I knew about this Red Eagle superhero.
Yeah, which I haven't seen that one either. But, it's interesting, too. I'd like to see a lot of old Thai movies, and they're probably freely available on CD or DVD, but I don't own a disc player. There's not a disc player in my condo. Like, it's all digital. So,
right.
Unless I can find a place to download them. I don't know. So check out, anyway, this is the plot of In Si Tong, which sounds crazy awesome. Rom Rittakrai, who is Khun Mit, is at a nightclub getting very drunk and trying to persuade others to join him in his fun. Rom is actually the masked crime fighter In Si Dang, or Red Eagle, and he uses this persona as a fun-loving drunkard as a cover. However, an imposter In Si Dang is committing murders, so Rom must change his masked alias to another color, and he becomes the Golden Eagle. The imposter Red Eagle is connected to the Red Bamboo Gang, which is trying to seize control of the Thai government. Red Bamboo is led by Bakin, who is trained in hypnotism by Rasputin, and is able to kill his intended targets by beaming his thoughts and visage through red ceramic Buddha statues, which are being delivered to various Thai officials. Bakin can also split himself into 3 images, making it impossible for gunmen to shoot him.
This is great.
It's fantastic. A police detective, meanwhile, is investigating his own angle on the case, going undercover as a transvestite to infiltrate a ring of transvestite criminals who are in league with the Red Bamboo Gang. A case of mistaken identity causes the policeman and Golden Eagle to get into a fight. The plot comes to a climax on an island in the Gulf of Thailand, with the police racing in on boats to attack the Red Bamboo stronghold. The mission accomplished, the Golden Eagle takes hold of a rope ladder on a helicopter and is carried aloft and into the sunset in true action style.
Well, that's a great B-movie plot,
It sounds awesome. I mean, you can't get more cool than being trained by Rasputin in hypnotism. However, it was this final stunt of being carried away on a helicopter that would end Khun Mit's life. Now, it should have had a stuntman, but Khun Mit refused, as back then having a stuntman was considered kind of a cop-out, especially if you were like a big action movie star, So he was also producing the movie, and he insisted on doing the stunt himself. So the stunt called for Khun Mit to grab the rope ladder and step on the bottom rung and, grab onto the couple of rungs above. But the timing was off for whatever reason, and he was only able to grab onto the bottom rung with his hands. So not knowing this, the helicopter pilot continued the stunt as planned, flying higher and higher over Jomtien Beach in Pattaya, and inevitably Khun Mit got tired and slipped from the ladder, falling 90 meters or 300 feet to his death.
Yeah, now this I had heard about. I didn't know it was a star, somebody who was this big of a celebrity, but I had heard about this accident before.
Yeah, it was huge news in Bangkok. Like, he was, imagine, like
Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or someone like that.
Yeah, like some massive star dying in a tragic accident at the height of their fame. The only relative parallel I can think of in Hollywood is like maybe Brandon Lee when he was killed on the set of The Crow or something like that. That was huge news. So as we've talked about before, he was incredibly prolific. So when he died, Khun Mit was working on 18 films at the same time.
Wow.
All of them, he was the main hero, so all 18 had to be canceled. That's a real blow to the industry.
Sure.
Now, the information that I found online said that Khun Mit was cremated at Wat Sunton Tamatan, which, weirdly enough, was the same temple where my friend Eric was cremated last year. So it's a nice little temple sort of close to Ratchadamnon Avenue. There's a quote from the Bangkok Post that called it the most riotous and trouble-plagued funeral rite in living memory. As people pushed and shoved, tens of thousands of fans turned out at the temple for his cremation ceremony. And Thai people didn't believe Khun Mit was dead, so caretakers had to raise and carry the body above the crowd to show the truth and avoid a stampede. Now, that sounds really morbid, and actually today, as I was sort of finishing up my research, I found video of this. And there's a really interesting sort of documentary on Khun Mit, which is all in Thai, but it's quite well done. We'll link to that in our show notes as well. But in it has footage of this, and it's really kind of morbid. Khun Mit's body is like stiff and laying on this table, and there's just thousands of people pushing and jostling, and the funeral officials kind of grab his neck and lift him up like he's stiff, and they basically stand him up,
Oh my
holding
God.
the back of his head so that the crowd can see his corpse.
Oh, wow.
You know, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So that's the kind of reaction. I mean, people were just, really heartbroken about this. Yeah, so that was the career of Khun Mitr Chaibancha, and we didn't go into a ton of detail. Like I said, the information is kind of hard to find in English. I'm sure there's a lot of it in Thai out there.
Let me ask you this. Do you think young Thai people, if I say Khun Mit to my students, will they know who he is?
That's interesting. Maybe. Let's follow up. Let's do a follow up. Ask them next week.
I'll do that. I will ask my students who was Khun Mit and see as an actor and see if they know who he was.
Yeah, I did mention it to a girl I work with, and I don't know how old she is. I don't want to say, she's 40, and she turns out to be 25 or something. But I think she's probably mid-30s, and she knew who he was. But I wonder what a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds would think. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go out and get the original somehow. And I'm going to have to go out and get the remake that was remade in 2010, which looks like a semi-competent, cheesy B-movie. But there is tons of footage on YouTube of Khun Mit. And it's like I said, a lot of the films were damaged or just destroyed and thrown away. So a lot of the footage is really rough, but you can see a bunch of it on YouTube. And of course, it's really, cheesy and, lame, to be honest, by today's standards.
Still, it's cool that Thailand had their own superhero. I think it's a good idea for like every culture to have their own superhero.
Yeah, I think it's cool too. I think it's cool. So,
Red Eagle,
there we
and
go.
it's even a cool name of a superhero, Red Eagle.
Yeah, Red Eagle. Although I got to say that the outfit is is very 70s. He puts on like an eagle shaped mask over his eye, Lone Ranger style. So, but hey, man. I mean, if it works, it works. And if you're beating up Rasputin trained hypnotist, maybe no one has time to recognize what your eyes look like behind the mask. So that was the life of Khun Mitr Chaibancha. He was a true superstar, and it was a very sad ending. And actually, there's the last little note I want to add is actual footage of his death. Like, they were filming this. That was included in the movie when it was released in cinemas. But in the DVD release, the shot stops and freeze frames just before he falls. So that's the last scene in the movie. The last thing you see is him frozen with like dedicated to Khun Mit text over top of it.
Right. Wow.
There we go. Crazy story. All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or leave, where one of us surprises the other with a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or hate so much that it makes us want to leave forever. And this week, it is my turn.
All right, man.
Now, Ed, I do a lot more driving than you, but you've certainly noticed this. What do you think of these cement pillars, usually on that support the SkyTrain, but can also support overpasses and highways and things like that? And they're covered in these cheesy, dirty plastic flowers and plants, usually with some sort of sad attempt to make it look beautiful or something like that. Do you find this like a nice attempt at beautifying the city, or do you think they're just like, ugh, God, what are you trying to do here?
Well, okay, I know what you're talking about. I don't like it. It's not something that I would say bothers me a lot, but I would say it is part of something that does bother me, which is the fact that I think that Bangkok underutilizes like greenery. Now, there are exceptions. Obviously, we got like Lumpini Park and things like that. But I feel like in a tropical country where plants seem to grow like wildly fast, that I feel like there should be more actual true plants or flowers, or I just feel like the roads are just grimy, and like with the SkyTrain blocking everything, there's not enough green in Bangkok.
Right, but even if they did put real flowers down underneath, there's not enough sunlight there. Maybe they wouldn't survive.
Maybe, but in that particular case, maybe I guess you have to use plastic plants, and of course, like real plants require upkeep. But I'm going to say I don't like it. I think it's kind of a fail. I don't think it works.
That's a good way to put it. Love, loathe, or fail.
Yeah, it's kind of a fail. I guess maybe it's a good thing that they're trying to put something there, and like at least it's green colors, but it's kind of lame.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's a case of closing the barn door after the horse is bolted, because I think the cement structures that hold up a lot of these highways and SkyTrains, they're really ugly. They're just sort of flat cement. And there's got to be something you can do with cement, some architectural or design flourish that you can do to it that makes it look better than just flat cement walls.
Yeah, it's kind of brutal. It's kind of brutal. I mean, I love the SkyTrain, and so I love the convenience of it. Maybe there's not that much you can do with it. I think most plans, like the direct sun, might even be too strong. I feel that some plants don't need. Some plants grow in the shade, right? I mean,
there's got to be plants out there that grow in the shade.
Yeah, and it's not like dark shade. I mean, there's light bouncing all over the place. I've always thought that Bangkok just should have more greenery, like actual real plants. Like there's very few places where the median in between the lanes actually has plants or grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just too much cement.
I agree. Too much cement, not enough real flowers. Plastic ones, I get A for effort, but D for execution. I don't think they do much. So I got to say loathe. I wish they would do something nice with the cement instead, which doesn't need upkeep.
Agreed. I'm gonna go loathe. I'm gonna go loathe on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Devin Knowles for lending us his support at the show shout-out level. Greg, what did you find out about Devin?
Well, as it turns out, Devin has lived in Bangkok for 4 years, or had lived in Bangkok for 4 years. I'm actually not sure if he's here right now. Devin, where are you, buddy? He didn't expect to be here that long, so we have that in common. I mean, both of us came over here expecting to be here for a little while and ended up being here for way longer. But in his email to me, he mentioned that his coworkers had given him the nickname of Chang Pua, which means white elephant. White elephant as a nickname. Sounds like a fun office, Devin. I mean, in my first office, check this out, I was given the nickname of Chai, which means brother, which that's just bullshit. That's a crock, man. I would have preferred everyone calling me, hey, there goes the white elephant, then there goes the brother.
I like that nickname. That's a great nickname.
Which one, Chai or Chang Pua?
Chang Pua.
Yeah, it's way better than Chai. I got stiffed, I think. No pun intended. But Devin is also a bike rider, and he said he only had his road bike with him when he moved to Bangkok. And then, as we know, those don't do too well in Bangkok.
That's right.
Skinny tires and everything like that. So you can't take those over to Bangkok Chau, the green lung, which we've talked about on the show before. So he wanted to go for a bike ride there one time, and he said when he did, he rented one of those old crappy bikes, those Mary Poppins bikes over there, like with the basket on front and stuff. And he said he got one with no brakes and managed to fly right off the concrete path and landing in the swamp below.
Oh wow, that's one of my fears.
Yeah, and Devin, I'm glad you're alive, man, because we've all, Ed and I have both heard horror stories of people landing on things and coming out with sepsis and breaking legs and stuff like that. So it's pretty nasty. So I'm glad you got out alive. But I will recommend, my friend, next time you want to go for a ride in Bangkok, you get Ed and I to come with you, because we know really good bike shop, check this out, has bicycles with brakes.
Yeah, crazy. Super advanced.
Well, thanks for your support, man. We really do appreciate it. And just so you know, Ed and I did have an argument here about whether your name was Devin or Devon. I settled on Devin. I hope that's correct. If it is Devon, I apologize. And Ed will take kudos for that one. But I say Devin.
All right, before we wrap up, I'd like to give a special thanks to all of our lovely patrons. As you know, we don't run ads or our sponsors, so we really do appreciate the support we get from our patrons. If you want to learn more, just head to bangkokpodcast.com/support. And if you want to get in touch with us, it's easy. Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We are very polite, and if you write, we will answer.
You can also find us online, where we post each episode and carry on conversations with our listeners. You can also reach out to me directly on Twitter, where I am BKK Greg. So thank you for listening, everyone. We'll see you back here next week.
I don't know if it's Devin or Devon. Devon?
Devin.
Okay. So, Greg, what did you find out about Devon? Or, I'm sorry, Devin. Sorry. So, Greg, what did you find out about Devin?